We should protect her privacy and not reveal too much of that.
I will say I went into it naively. I didn't fully understand what the job was, right?
And while I would not wish this situation on my worst enemy, if it gives a voice to someone who doesn't have it.
This whole journey has just brought Will and I closer in such an authentic way.
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me.
That comes with the job.
Has someone ever tried to persuade you, but there was just something about their statements you didn't find convincing, without knowing exactly what it was? With social media, it's never been easier for celebrities, politicians and influencers to get people to buy whatever inclusive or empowering message they're selling. In this video, I'll focus on some of the most important linguistic warning signs that you're dealing with a disingenuous person, with lack of accountability and entitlement as focal points. If you're excited about language and how language works, subscribe for more videos. Welcome to the channel.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence?
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names.
No, of course not, because it's not like the only conclusion to her claims is that they're liars. First of all, Amber devalues the witnesses, who can't trust what they've seen or haven't seen apparently. Secondly, she continues her protagonist-antagonist framework, with Depp as the alleged powerful antagonist. As a result of these 2 points, Amber doesn't hold herself accountable. This is a pattern.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was, because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognizable to myself ways.
Saving face is what this kind of quote-unquote accountability taking is about. First of all, she doesn't specify what these horrible, regrettable things are. Secondly, she doesn't say any of this of her own accord. She has to be asked about it. Thirdly, she says unrecognizable to myself ways, suggesting that her default mode is very different, in a positive way, and also that she actually didn't behave in unrecognizable to herself ways, because she prefaces this phrase with the adverb almost.
There's so much, I have so much regret. I freely and openly and voluntarily talked about what I did. I talked about the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between, right and wrong.
She uses passive voice, being pushed, which relieves her of accountability and assigns blame to the antagonist in her narrative, Depp. So even when she's supposed to show that she can hold herself accountable, she can't, no matter how overcompensating the language she uses is.
Freely and openly and voluntarily.
In this regard, it should always be noted when people, and especially people who are usually quite vocal and assertive, are suddenly willing to portray themselves as smaller than they are, maybe even more naive than they are. This way, they can distract from the bad decisions they've made, the responsibility they have, and portray themselves as victims or suffering in the process. In the following, Jada talks about the affair she had with one of her son's friends.
We actually became really, really good friends. And it all started with him just needing some help. Me wanting to help his health, his mental state.
When Og first came around, he was really sick.
He was really, really sick, yeah.
And with August, what do you feel like you were looking for?
I just wanted to feel good. It had been so long since I felt good. It's healing that needs to happen. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
Even though this is minuscule, I do feel like it's these kinds of things that create the world that we're in. And the idea of not communicating, not talking about it, not clearing the air.
Jada made this decision. However, her generic statements about healing and communicating don't hold her personally accountable.
It's
the words
healing that
needs to happen are devoid of agency. Who should initiate the healing, and how will it even happen? This critical part is intentionally vague. There's no mention of who neglected the communicating or who should have cleared the air. There's no agency. Instead, she makes it sound like a general problem and also a collaborative effort that Will is part of. Jada even does a pseudo-psychoanalysis of herself. Suddenly, she's willing to point out the flaws she has. In a context like this, people, and especially people who are as proud as Jada, criticize themselves for self-interest. Hiding behind psychological terms is a way for Jada and other people with access to social media to evade responsibility. In theory, at least.
I think that has a lot to do with my codependency, which is another thing that I had to learn to break in this cycle. Just that idea of needing to fix and being drawn to people that need help, whether it's your health or whether it's your addictions. There's something about that childhood trauma that feels as though it can be fixed through fixing people.
With words like learn and needed to fix, she turns this conversation into a therapy session about her personal development. Deceptively, she makes what is a purely selfish decision based on impulse and desire sound a lot deeper than it is, almost spiritual. In the process, she says being drawn to people that need help. This is passive voice, removing agency from her. Instead, she's simply being drawn, as if she couldn't or can't help it.
But here's the thing about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation, and that was the issue in the case.
It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And that's all I spoke. And I spoke it to power, and I paid the price.
Amber will have the audience believe that the verdict is a result of her inferior status right from the beginning. Now, supposedly, she's merely one of many victims who lose cases because they're brave enough to speak truth to power, which is a self-aggrandizing cliché she uses. This way, she rules out that the evidence against her and her lack of evidence were of any relevance to the verdict, and thus continues to devalue the jurors' credibility as a means to make her split with the royal family sound understandable and relatable, as opposed to self-serving and calculating. Meghan makes it sound like she didn't know what she was getting into.
You're marrying the monarchy. What did you think it was going to be like?
I will say I went into it naively because I didn't grow up knowing much about the royal family. My mom even said to me a couple months ago, she said, did Diana ever do an interview? Now I can say, yes, a very famous one, but my mom doesn't even know that, right?
But you were certainly aware of the royals.
Of course.
And if you're going to marry a royal, then you would do research about what that would mean.
Well, I didn't do any research about what that would mean.
You didn't do any research?
No. I've never looked up my husband online. I just didn't feel a need to because everything that I needed to know he was sharing with me, right? Or everything that we thought I needed to know he was telling me. I will say
Meghan modifies her statement either because she knows it isn't true or because she knows there are different opinions about this. Either way, it doesn't sound assertive. With her overly convincing nodding, her claim has a preference for agreement, same as the word right.
I went into it naively. Right.
Preferences for agreement make disagreement uncomfortable and/or impossible. She says she didn't know much about the family, which indicates that she did know something, just not much. However, she defines that. Conveniently, she doesn't tell us.
Because I didn't grow up knowing much about the royal family.
By alluding to the famous interview with Diana, Meghan can make Diana's situation sound comparable to hers, which she has an interest in, considering the criticism she faces. This interest explains why her intonation indicates reluctance when Oprah says this.
Right.
But you were certainly aware of the royals.
Of course.
And if you...
Interestingly, Meghan says of course, while shaking her head no. Meghan's intonation and body language foreshadow her denial of Oprah's suggestion.
Well, I didn't do any research about what that would mean.
You didn't do any research.
Before she makes the unreliable claim.
I've never looked up my husband online.
Which isn't only unreliable in itself, but also unreliable because she since revealed that she literally asked a friend who Harry was.
And then she sent me an email saying, I know you said you're single, and a friend of mine asked about you, and maybe you'd like to meet him. And I said, who is it? And she said, it's Prince Has. And I said, who's that?
So she wanted to know who he was, but she didn't Google him. Sure. That must be because she had other priorities that sound just as reliable.
I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it didn't seem like it would make sense, and so we went and...
With such modest criteria, I guess she wouldn't have cared if Harry had been an unemployed renovation worker, right?
Right.
By downplaying her knowledge about Harry, she can avoid criticism that she only started dating Harry because of his status, in theory. Meghan's unreliable persuasion continues.
And what it would mean to be a part of that family. You didn't give it a lot of thought?
No, we thought about what we thought it might be.
Yeah? Which is, that's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't fully understand what the job was, right?
Oprah's asking Meghan, personally, what she thought to herself. Meghan, however, shifts pronoun. She says, we thought about, not I thought about. This association with Harry indicates that Meghan finds the question uncomfortable and is looking for a way to answer it without holding herself accountable or solely accountable.
No, we thought about...
The pause indicates that Meghan's hesitant about what to say, because the last thing she wants is to make it sound like she knew what she went into. That would contradict her victim narrative.
What we thought it might be. I didn't fully understand what the job was, right?
With her rising intonation, she's asking, not stating, before she claims that she didn't fully understand what the job was. Fully indicates that she did know something, just not fully, however she defines that. With right, she's once again asking, not stating, and she's going for Oprah's agreement, even though she's explained very little. Oprah doesn't know, that's why she's asking. So Meghan's right is there to control the conversation, to steer the conversation towards the conclusions that Meghan wants the audience to draw. Meghan's speech behavior indicates that she's very careful about protecting herself, protecting her victim narrative at all costs. In the following, Meghan associates with Americans to make her narrative seem relatable.
But I think there was no way to understand what the day-to-day was going to be like.
Yeah.
And it's so different because I didn't romanticize any element of it, but I think as Americans especially, what do you know about the royals? It's what you read in fairy tales.
Right.
You think is what you know about the royals, right? When the perception and the reality are two very different things, and you're being judged on the perception, but you're living the reality of it, there's a complete misalignment.
Here, it should be noted that before she even married Harry, she seemed to be quite aware of the judging part.
I think I can very safely say, as naive as it sounds now, having gone through this learning curve in the past year and a half, I did not have any understanding of just what it would be like. And I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us, yeah.
On us.
And this doesn't sound like someone who went into it naively.
I will say I went into it naively.
Furthermore, in the following, Meghan's statements are exposed for what they are, entitlement disguised as a victim narrative, because what Meghan calls problems aren't problems at all. Notice how Meghan portrays herself as the self-sacrificing victim, instructing the audience to think highly of her.
For me, I mean, I wrote letters to his family when I got there saying, I am dedicated to this. I'm here for you. Use me as you'd like. There was no guidance as well, right? You know, unlike what you see in the movies, there's no class on how to speak, how to cross your legs.
Nobody prepares you.
No, I mean, but even down, but even down to like the national anthem. That's me late at night Googling, what's the national, I've got to learn this.
One of the best ways to disguise self-serving motives is to pretend to advocate for other people, self-aggrandizement masked as altruism. Thus, Meghan claims that she shares this because there are so many people who are afraid to voice that they need help. She says that she and Harry hear a lot of stories like Meghan's, while indirectly praising herself by saying that it takes so much courage to admit that you need help. However, with Meghan's words about the mental health series, she makes sure to mention that they're working on a financial motivation for sharing this is more than hinted at. If these stories are similar to Meghan's, I don't know what that says about the reliability of them. Once again, we see that association with other people is Meghan's way of authenticating her statements, even though association doesn't prove anything. Try to use that persuasion technique in a courtroom. Jada also tries to make people buy her narrative, quite literally, since she's advertising for her book, by giving people the impression that she's just one of many, and thus that she's standing up for other people.
You know, I had to talk about my journey, you know? And I think, just like we were talking about, I think there's so many of us who, you know, hold so much, you know, specifically women, and feeling like we're going to be criticized, we're going to be
can't say anything.
judged, you can't say anything, you know, you know. And I think, just like we were talking about,
These utterances, Jada keeps appealing to shared knowledge, making sure that Hoda remains an ally in this conversation. Not that there was ever any doubt about that.
see?
Okay. Well, I didn't know that we might get...
I was trying to take.
Well, wait.
I totally missed that on the whole. That's the whole thing.
So, wait.
Which speaks volumes about modern journalism, but that's a topic for another video. Jada appeals to people's indignation, and not just people's indignation, but the indignation of the demographic she hopes will buy her narrative, quite literally. Once the demographic has recognized the feeling of being judged, a popular and most often deceptive platitude by the way, they'll forget what Jada said and done. Specifically, this tactic is about creating a generic, relatable narrative about being judged, so that people don't hold Jada accountable specifically. Also, we should note how deliberately hyperbolic she is.
You can't say anything.
No one said that. Rather, people react to what she says, and apparently, that reaction flies in the face of the image she wants people to have of her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said this. Hyperbolic oversimplifications have a self-protective function and are as disingenuous as the person who uses them.
And the beautiful part about it is like this whole journey, as difficult as it's been, has just brought Will and I closer in such an authentic way. You know?
So for both of us, it was just a really authentic and organic way to get to know each other.
Amber also disguises self-serving motives as a fight for the common good.
I was able to turn the things that I've lived through, my pain, my life experiences, into work, into action, into providing a voice for other people.
Women don't need to find a voice.
Saint. I'm not trying to present myself as one, as you all know, but I selfishly found relief in being able to use what I've lived through to advocate for others, to bring light to these issues, to give a voice to people who don't have the voice and the platform that I have.
They have a voice.
And while I would not wish this situation on my worst enemy,
they need to feel empowered to use it.
Gives a voice to someone who doesn't have it.
Amber's statements with the platitude voice as the focal point are a testament to her sense of self-importance. She humble brags when she says she's selfishly found relief in helping people. Humble brag is a seemingly self-deprecating statement that's actually used for the opposite effect, to highlight one's alleged positive qualities. Here, the word selfishly is supposed to be self-deprecating. However, when the context is helping other people, it's not wrong but loving to be selfish. And Amber knows that. This is impression management. She doesn't let the audience make their own inferences. This shows how deliberate her pathos tactics are, appealing to the jury members' emotion and pity, trying to make herself seem smaller than she is, when recordings expose a much different person.
I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. And I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you. You are such a baby!
Recordings have a way of exposing people who claim to be well-intentioned.
You know Esther Perel is coming to the table. She's going to be at the red table. Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me.
Oh my goodness.
If you could film me.
Esther, come help us again, please. I'm still dealing with foolishness.
Because she don't just...
And the beautiful part about it is like this whole journey has just brought Will and I closer in such an authentic way. You know?
Suddenly, it's like the journey isn't so great at all. Who would have thought? I mean, it's not like the word journey was the first hint that Jada wasn't being truthful. Meghan also doesn't mind showing if she isn't happy about something Harry says. In the following, notice Meghan's corrections and Harry's nervousness as a result. The warning signs were there right from the very beginning.
How did you first meet?
Yes, we first met, we were introduced actually by a mutual friend who
we should protect her privacy and
protect her
not
privacy,
reveal too much of that.
And but it was literally through her. For us, it's an opportunity to really get to know each other without other people, looking or trying to take photos on their phones and all that kind of stuff. With that comes with the job, comes with the role. But where possible,
yeah. And we were able to really get to know each other that way. But also then to go and
if you were to
We're
describe
in the
your
most
relationship.
beautiful place.
Yeah.
I will never leave Will's side.
Never.
Ever.
I can't decide what's more beautiful, that Jada won't leave Will's side or all the healing.
We are in a deep healing space.
What do you think?
And let me tell you, it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful.
What?
Yes, because when things are truly beautiful, you need to repeat it and preface it with overly convincing language like,
And let me tell you,
it doesn't sound overcompensating at all. And next, it's revealed just how empty Jada's jargon is, as she can't substantiate the words she's been repeating.
it's been beautiful.
What does that beauty look like for you day in and day out? So are y'all living together?
It's just this beautiful connection.
Jada visibly dislikes this question. The adverb just oversimplifies her explanation or lack thereof, and points to the existence of another thought, likely the opposite thought, that either this connection isn't beautiful, or that what she's said doesn't even make sense to her.
We will.
Look at that.
Not right now.
But you will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's.
Why do you say that with such
clarity?
I think I know the answer to that one. She says it with such clarity because she didn't know how else to get out of the situation. Let's watch it again.
It's just this beautiful connection. We will.
Oftentimes, people who use the most positive platitudes and cliches are the ones least likely to be able to substantiate their pretend positivity. Many people, unfortunately, buy into it because they prefer fantasy over reality.
Why do you say that with such
clarity?
Because that's what it's going to be.
The many specific details truly add to the reliability of this answer. It reminds me of Meghan when she was asked what her work with the UN entails specifically.
And I did. I took that week off work to really understand the pillars of the organization and working closely there. So I went to Rwanda because Rwanda has the highest percentage of female parliamentarians of any government in the world. 64% of their government is female, which is astounding and amazing. Seeing some of the briefings for what they're going to say to Ban Ki-moon, our UN Secretary General, and understanding how that piece of it works, or understanding different pillars of an organization where they'll say, okay, there's meetings about the environment, and then there's a meeting about health and wellness, and a meeting about safety and security, and then a meeting about women's issues. And you go, okay, but aren't women affected by all of those things?
What does the work entail? What do you do?
Yeah, so last February, actually, I went to Rwanda. Yes, so many of the men were lost in the genocide, so it gave women an opportunity to either succumb to that or to then find some strength and then mobilize in a way that was really empowering. And I think that's specifically what they've done, which is a great benchmark for what women all over the world could be doing.
What Meghan's describing isn't actual work. She's describing guided tours that she was paid to be part of. She's making observations that anyone could make, but at least she gets to use the buzzword empowering, albeit in a highly inappropriate context. However, for Meghan, Amber, and Jada, it's about the words themselves, about using the right terms and phrases for self-aggrandizement to make people perceive them the way they perceive themselves. It's all about image. That's why buzzwords and euphemisms should be noted as warning signs. What do you think about these excerpts? Let us know in the comments. See you next time.